Okay, and then also from the ARTiFACTS team, we have Emma Boswood. Emma, do you want to introduce yourself? Oh, you're muted.
You're muted.
Always gets me every time.
Yeah.
So hi, I'm Emma. I'm the Community Engagement Director at ARTiFACTS, and like Dave and Jason, I've got several years behind me at companies like Thomson Reuters with Web of Science and whatnot, and I've been with ARTiFACTS for well over a year now, and it's I'm the questions girl, so if you have any questions after today, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll do my best to get you the answers that you're looking for. And thank you all for being here as well.
Thanks, Emma. And then finally, again, from the ARTiFACTS team, we have Jason Rollins.
Thanks, Sheila. Hey, everyone. I just real quickly echo some of the things that Dave said. Yeah, I mean, our background, I think, is pretty aligned with everyone here, but you'll let us know if we're a little bit off there and how we might, move more closely to working together. So we've developed ARTiFACTS to try to make things better for researchers and certainly for librarians and organizations like all of you represent. So looking forward to showing just sort of a little bit of preview and a taste of what we've done, and then ideally move into a discussion where hopefully we can find some really concrete and exciting ways to collaborate. So that's certainly what I'm hoping we can all get out of this this next hour. So looking forward to that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jason. And since we do have kind of a relatively smaller group on the call, if I would love to just go around and have each person introduce yourself, maybe just your name, where you work, and your role would be wonderful, would be, more than wonderful. Kathy, do you want to go first?
Oh, sure. Hi, Kathy Flynn Purvis, and I work at the University of Oregon, and I am the institutional repository manager there.
Wonderful. Thanks, Kathy. Anna Wetterberg, you're next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Anna Wetterberg. I manage the RTI Press, which is the scholarly publishing arm of RTI International, which is a nonprofit institute based in North Carolina.
Awesome. Thanks, Anna. Jan Franson, you're up next.
I am Jan Franson from the University of Minnesota Libraries, and I am the service lead for Research Information Management Systems.
Awesome. Thanks, Jan. Evan, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Evan Sprague. I'm the Research and Publishing Support Librarian at Washington University in St. Louis.
Wonderful. Thank you. Franny.
Hello, I'm Franny Gady. I'm the head of Digital Scholarship Services at the University of Oregon.
Awesome, thank you. Eric Clark.
Hi there, I'm at Florida State University. I work at the Mag Lab and work in the web applications group there. I'm very interested to see what ARTiFACTS has to offer as we're revamping our user system where people request magnet time and then ultimately publish out results from experiments and proposals.
Wonderful, thanks, Eric. Elizabeth, you are next.
Hi, I'm Liz Manriquez. I'm the Scholarly Communications Librarian at the University of Wisconsin Law Library. And I've been working to get all of our faculty loaded into ORCID. So I'm very interested to see what ARTiFACTS can do for us.
Wonderful, thanks. Jason Rinaldo.
Hi, I'm Jason Rinaldo. I'm the Department Head of Digital Library Initiatives at NC State University Libraries, and I manage our citation index application, which is our ORCID integration.
Wonderful, thanks. Keith Pickett.
Hi, I'm Keith. I'm the coordinator of user resources and research services at Tulane University, and we're getting ready to try to have our faculty senate put out an ORCID statement. So I'm here to see how this can contribute to that.
That is very exciting. Awesome. Thanks, Keith. Ellen.
I'm Ellen Dubinsky, Scholarly Communication Librarian at University of Arizona.
Awesome. Thank you. Laura.
Hi, my name is Laura Hanscom. I'm the interim department head for scholarly communications and collection strategy at the MIT Libraries.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. Anna Cardoso?
Yes, hi everyone. So I'm Ana Cardoso, engagement lead at ORCID, and I'm very happy to join this presentation, and I'm really looking forward for the discussion at the end.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks for being here. And last but certainly not least, Christina.
I'm Christina Chan Park. I am the coordinator of STEM librarians at Baylor University.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for doing those intros. I don't think I missed anyone. I think I got everyone. Okay, great. And it was so great seeing everyone's faces. That's awesome. Okay, so thanks for those intros. I guess with no further ado, I'm going to hand it over to the ARTiFACTS team. They're going to tell us about the ARTiFACTS platform, and then we'll have some time at the end for questions and discussion, if that sounds great. So I'll hand it over to Dave, Emma, and Jason.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sheila.
Yeah.
Why don't I start? If I can share a screen.
Yep.
We'll start off that way with just 2 or 3 slides, and then we'll spend some time looking at a demonstration.
Wonderful. Yep, you should be able to see. There you go. Perfect.
You're all able to see this screen?
Yes, looks great.
Let's see if I can slideshow that. Yep. No, it moved over to another screen. Hang on just a second. Let me. No,
it keeps. There it is. We can see it now.
Yeah. Well, here, let's just stay right there because I only have a couple of slides anyway.
Okay, that's fine.
So, well, we have a contact information here. ARTiFACTS and ORCID, Researcher Recognition Accelerated. What we thought we'd do today is just give you just a bit of context, a small bit of context with a couple of slides about ARTiFACTS, what it is, what its vision is, what it's designed to do, what its purpose built for, how it relates to the research that the faculty and staff at your institutions conduct, and the roles that you all have in supporting the institutional research mission and broadly, and certainly the individuals across your own organizations, whether regardless of discipline that they happen to be working in. We're extremely pleased with the relationship that we have with ORCID. It's near and dear to our heart, and certainly mine personally as a co-founder of ORCID. The tie-in here that you'll see us illustrate and speak to more directly is the synergy that exists between ARTiFACTS and ORCID. So we'll talk a bit more about that. But again, with our contact information, certainly feel free to reach out to any of us. And as Emma has so nicely volunteered to follow up with any questions that you all may have. So what ARTiFACTS, what it is and what it does. It's a platform that secures the provenance of research and records citations to early findings. Now, we'll distinguish and differentiate ARTiFACTS from other citation systems that you all are well familiar with, whether they be the Web of Science, Scopus, or others. And we'll get to that in a moment. And the way it works is that our system links and chains together outputs. And here we're speaking of the work products that researchers generate in whatever discipline they happen to be working in. And each discipline has its own set of commonly created work products, whether it be computer code, whether it be experimental designs, methodological documentation, protocols, data sets, data output that is generated from experimental devices and so forth. There's a wide variety of research outputs that are produced. And ARTiFACTS itself, as an organization, is focused on the evidence and the research materials as they are produced in real time, long before they may or may not culminate in a publication. And so here's where we make a distinction between ARTiFACTS and services such as the citation databases of the Web of Science. They're very laser focused on the published literature, and just as we are very laser focused on the evidence and the materials that researchers produce. So what we do is we link together and chain together the provenance. So as you well know, research outputs evolve over time. Documents evolve from version 1 to version 37. So do data sets, so do protocols. And what we do is we link and chain those versions of those work products together. Our system adds essential metadata and intelligence, both to metadata associated with the artifact itself, the work product, and also the citations. And what's unique about citation and the citation methodology and artifacts is that those who are making citations, giving citations to the works of others, can include the reasons and rationale. So within artifacts, it is possible not only to cite the prior art of another researcher, but also to provide some information and granularity as to the reason and rationale for that. Importantly, what our system does is we integrate with the systems and the resources and the productivity tools that the researchers and you as librarians and you as staff supporting the research mission of your institutions rely on. We recognize that the world will not all, and we don't require all the world's researchers to operate and use artifacts. Our intention is to embed and connect with the tools and resources that you all are using in such a way that you can benefit from artifacts without necessarily having to be a direct user, or said another way, have artifacts learn from the work that you're doing in the systems that you're using and leverage that in making artifacts a more valuable and smarter resource for researchers and for those that support the research mission. And then ultimately we produce trend and impact analyses. So the payoff, the benefits are that we eliminate access barriers to the evidence of research. As you probably know, peer review itself as a process doesn't necessarily inspect all the evidence, and publishers don't necessarily link all the evidence and the evidentiary information and the files that are produced with works that they publish. So we provide access to those works, and when a research project culminates in a publication, we facilitate the creators of that research and the individuals who have authored the manuscript and the publisher who has published it to connect these artifacts, if you will, these output files with their published work. Importantly, so we eliminate access barriers, ensure recognition of those who have, both the researchers who have created the discoveries and the evidence, as well as their organizations, that they receive proper citation recognition and deliver advanced analytics. So the benefits, just a highlight of a few of these. First of which is to say that ARTiFACTS is an open system for researchers to access and use. So in the middle of this year, we released our version 2 platform, and it is open and available to researchers across all of your organizations to register into and use. We embed with local information systems. We'll talk a bit more about that as Jason walks through a bit of a demonstration. We adapt to library and university policies and workflows, or publisher workflows. So we're very keen to listen to and understand what your institution, what your departmental requirements are, and what your common practices are in your environment. And we try to form fit artifacts in a way that makes it as accessible in the resources that you all are relying on today. Importantly, and I'm really pleased that Anna, you were able to attend today's call as well. A focus we have is to optimize the advantages and benefits that member organizations of ORCID can realize from their membership. And we'll talk a bit more about that. We are members of ORCID, of course. We're a member of DataCite and importantly, a member of the Max Planck Blocksberg collaboration, which provides, if you will, the plumbing infrastructure that ARTiFACTS relies on, that's supported by nearly 50 research institutions across the world to house the transaction records that we're posting, both about artifacts and citations. We have customer experience working with universities, publishers, and foundations. And last but not least, we are an extremely cost-effective solution, both for your researchers, where the system is free and open and available for their use, and certainly for any integrations that we contemplate collaborating on with you and your institutions. We'll talk a bit more about that as we finish off our demonstration and in the discussion period today. So with that, why don't I turn this over to Jason and let you get a look at ARTiFACTS, and let's make this informal. So please feel free to ask questions. You can certainly post them to chat, but feel free to speak out, ask questions as we go along the way, and there will be ample time for us to speak after the demonstration.
Great, thanks so much, Dave. Let me make sure I can share my screen here. Sheila, I think you probably need to let me do that. Maybe Dave, maybe you need to stop sharing yours.
Yeah, that's right. Dave just has to stop, and then you should be able to share.
And let me find that. Hang on.
There should be a little red thing towards the top of the screen that says stop sharing.
Yes, there should be.
In your Zoom window.
Get that to appear.
Oh, I think I can stop you.
Yeah, I think.
Participant. There we go. I did it.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so Jason, you should be able to now.
I'm going to do that right now, momentarily.
Perfect.
Here we go.
Looks great.
Okay, so I'm going, as Dave said, I'm just going to give a quick overview looking at our live system. I'm not going to go into, or at least I'm not planning to go into every detail of every feature, but if anyone has questions, needs clarification, just shout out or put in the chat as was suggested, and we'll do our best. And of course, if anyone's super excited and enticed by this, let's follow up and we can go into as much depth as you like. And of course, anyone who wants to just give it a try on your own, it's out there on the web, artifacts.ai. So, okay, so the ARTiFACTS platform is live. We have real users, we have real partners, and we're going to show you some of what it's all about right now. So I'm just going to, we have all these sort of standard easy login options. I'm just going to use my email to get going, and we're going to come in and see. So ARTiFACTS is essentially really sort of four things embedded into our system. So it is a ever-growing metadata database. We're all familiar with metadata databases. I think the thing that we offer here that's unique is that we're helping to build a larger and larger collection of unpublished material that is still material that the creators want to make available for reuse and to be able to be cited. We have some dashboards that are kind of cool. We'll look at those. We also have what we call workspaces, which are sort of essential, basic, project management kind of functionality. And then we also have a set of plugins and APIs, and we can see a couple of examples of those right here. Here's our API, which we're always adding more and more power to for partners. We have some integrations with all kinds of different tools. Here's a cool one that we have for citation functionality within Google Scholar as an example. And we're always working on more of these, and I can show you a couple of examples of things linked into the platform as well. So I'm going to go through just a couple of the highlights. This, of course, is me. I'm logged in. This is my real stuff, as well as just some sort of sample projects that we put together to share with people. But we have what are called artifacts, which is just our term for sort of any kind of research or scholarly sort of output or item. So this could be, again, it could be a survey instrument. It could be, you can see here, the system is using some pretty good suggestions, some clever machine learning to suggest some things of mine that are already out there and published in the world. So we run the entire gamut from, here are some patents that we did with some researchers a few years ago, to some peer-reviewed articles. these are all actually mine. I haven't claimed them just to be able to demo the screen. But then if we go into my artifacts, this is where we can see we also have the ability for users to really create and or add any type of output that they would like to share. So here's a sample blockchain. This is a data set. We actually, Dave and I created this live when we were at a cool blockchain for science conference in Berlin, Germany last year. And here's a cool integration of where Dave mentioned that we integrate with the Bloxburg blockchain. So we do build on some pretty novel technology. As users or partners, you can be aware of this and you can say, hey, that's cool, we want to learn more about it, or not. As an end user, you really don't need to be, you don't need to be a technical guru at all. It's really just a web application. But we're really the only organization that is formally integrating blockchain technology to help secure the provenance of scholarly material. So that's something that we're proud of, and we think it does add some novelty and some value to our users there. And Dave, of course, jump in with some color commentary here if there's anything you think I'm missing. I'm going to go quickly, and again, anyone else questions or suggestions, please shout them out. So here is what we have, what we call workspaces, and again, these are essentially project spaces that individuals or groups of users can create, and they can use as a workspace to share and to collaborate, and even to to eventually publish and make public if one chooses. And you can see here are some examples of groups of authors who are associated with specific journals, who have worked with the journals to come together to create workspaces where they can collaborate and they can share material. There are all kinds of examples here that I happen to be involved with. If we want to look at an example of, here's a small project that Dave and I we created just as a sample project for psychology, right? So we have some keywords, we have some useful materials here. And some of these things are data sets. These are actual charts and so forth that we've created based on some analysis we've done for this project. And since citations are such an important currency of certainly the reputation and the career path for all the constituencies any of us serve, we're really trying to find just better ways to enable citations to a broader range of research outputs. Citations in the Web of Science or Scopus to peer-reviewed journals are great. I mean, that's been around for a long time. That's well established. Dave and I both personally worked with Dr. Garfield as he developed some of those things, so we certainly have a personal connection to the value of all that stuff. But we also realize that there's just a much broader range of things and a better way to see certainly early signals of the emerging value of research outputs. And so we enable the attributions to really any kind of item that's in artifacts, including a workspace itself, or even in individual artifacts. So if I jump over to my artifacts here, we can see that here's actually a draft paper that I've been working on with some collaborators. We've made this publicly available, and we've actually started to accrue quite a few citations, even in the draft form. We're keeping track of those citations. And so anyone here that's involved in this project doesn't have to wait for this paper to be completely peer-reviewed and published and then start to accrue citations. That process is great. We're not trying to say there's anything wrong with that process. We're just saying that in addition to this process, we're leveraging these contemporary technologies to enable a faster, broader view of both access to these research outputs as well as actual credit in the form of citations. And so if you look at, here's a little dashboard we have for my stuff. You can see that we have a range of citations, both citations within our platform, as well as some citations that we're counting from other systems. now certainly all of you are probably more expert, certainly than I am on citations. We all know that if we go out and look at Google Scholar and Scopus and Web of Science and all these others, you're going to get kind of a different citation number from each of them, right? I mean, that's either a feature or a bug, depending on who's spinning it. But so we're not pretending that we're going to magically solve that problem with machine learning or blockchain or anything like that. But we are giving a different view that we feel is valuable, that is broader than simply the counts that you would get in one of the established citation databases. And it includes, again, this activity within our platform. And this activity is available, through our APIs to be fed into any kind of, any kind of partnership system. So as Dave mentioned, we don't necessarily expect everyone to come through the ARTiFACTS front door. It would be great if you do, but we also realize that people have their established, commercial and homegrown systems that they really more likely want data integrated with. And so we're offering all of that. So I guess maybe one other sort of highlight, two other highlights I want to show real quickly. We also have these dashboards for sort of institutional users. In this case, the ones that we're able to show publicly all happen to be for journals, but I think everyone on the call here could imagine that we could create something like this for a library, for a university, for a research group. And honestly, we talk to folks around the world sort of all the time that are excited about that sort of potential. And again, these can be customized, really pretty easily. We integrate data from a publishing platform, from an institutional repository. Again, a view of citations both from outside in the established world of peer-reviewed stuff, as well as citations that are starting to accrue through usage within the ARTiFACTS platform and the broader ARTiFACTS API-powered network. And this happens to be the Journal of the British Blockchain Association. They're relatively new, relatively small, specialized journal, but they're very excited about what they're able to see here that frankly they just wouldn't see in other systems. They don't see this in their publishing platform, for example. They get a broader view, and they also have an opportunity to engage their user community, whether it's readers, editors, authors, potential contributors. And I think overall they're really quite happy with this, and they've been really sharing out the sort of partnership and the potential for what ARTiFACTS is doing for them. So again, that's something that we're proud of as well. So since so many of you work for libraries or have some close affiliation with libraries at your universities, I just wanted to highlight sort of one other thing that we do have here. I don't want that. I want if I do a quick search on someone here, I can dive in and I can see not that, but if I click on this result, just wanted to show you that we do actually have here an implementation of an integration with an institutional repository. This happens to be with the Edmund repository at the Max Planck Institutes. Max Planck Institutes has many different research organizations. They have several different institutional repositories. This is one that we happen to have an active integration with. And so essentially what we're able to do is increase the reach and the impact of all the material they've spent effort in putting into their institutional repositories. And I think it's probably fair to presume that many of you on the call sort of understand the value of that, certainly have invested time and effort in getting material into your IRs, and hopefully would like to find a way to both expand reach and then also start actually counting up the use and citations of those. And that's sort of one of the goals that we have with ARTiFACTS, and that's certainly one of the things that we hope we can all discuss in the next half hour or so on this this call.
And Jason, maybe just a comment to add there, sort of the use cases with, I think the way we suggest you think about use cases for your own institutional repositories and artifacts, it can be a two-way two-way connectivity. First of which is that our artifacts through our API, in collaboration, coordinating and adapting to your own policies for managing content that finds its way into your institutional repository, we can make it very efficient for content that is created and or managed from the artifact system to be posted to your institutional repository. Now, you may very well want to have a defined workflow, gatekeeper or gatekeepers, or a process that determines exactly which content is appropriate and should find its way to the IR. And we will accommodate that. And along the way through our API is to ensure that the appropriate metadata, the appropriate links to original work and so forth are carried through and posted into your repository. So that's sort of the one direction of the information flow. And another direction of information flow can be some or a larger set, or potentially even all content that resides in an institutional repository, to allow artifacts to secure the provenance of all of those works by recording an immutable transaction, a proof of existence transaction, if you will, onto that Blacksburg infrastructure. The value there, of course, is that as you all wish to put the highest quality content into your institutional repositories, you're also interested, we believe, at least we've been told, that universities are interested in drawing attention to that content. And by connecting the content with the infrastructure, the Blacksburg infrastructure, that just expands, what it does is it expands its discoverability. So there are a number of benefits there that we'd be happy to explore with you selectively, and certainly talk about further on today's call.
Thanks, Dave. So just two other real quick things. I would certainly be remiss here if I didn't highlight our very cool ORCID integrations. So I do have my ORCID account linked. I'm not quite sure why it's not showing up here, but there we go. So if I go back in, and we can see that there's my ORCID account, and we've put a lot of work in, and the ORCID team's been fantastic to work with to integrate. We sort of have a complete round tripping of data sharing with ORCID if a user so chooses. I'm not going to demo all that here, but essentially this allows a secure, again, back and forth sort of handshake of sharing information with ORCID. So I think without going through all those steps, I think one could easily imagine that if I had my artifacts here, that I would like some of these things that I've been working on, that I would like to share on my ORCID profile. We make that very easy with this ORCID integration. And again, anyone can go on to ARTiFACTS. You can even log in with your ORCID account, and you can experiment with this for yourself. Or if you wanted us to take a little bit more time on a separate call, we're of course more than happy to do that. So
right, and the way that integration operates is that the user always has control over what content appears in either system. Of course, ORCID gives users that complete control, as do we with artifacts. And so there are users who the synchronization with ORCID button there, when the user chooses that option, they're then setting artifacts and ORCID up in such a way that whenever the synchronization can be for can connect all of the content in artifacts with their ORCID works file, or selectively, it allows the user to selectively choose which artifacts that are in artifact, which work products in artifacts they wish to have reflected in their ORCID works record. can be some or all or none. And vice versa, it's possible for the ARTiFACTS user to, with this synchronization, to allow their ORCID Works records to become known to ARTiFACTS. And the benefit there is the more ARTiFACTS knows about that individual's research, the smarter our system becomes in suggesting and recommending other related works. So that two-way integration is really quite powerful for the individual user. And for those of you who, it sounds like there are a number of you on the call who are charged with the responsibility of deploying ORCID across your institution and attracting and increasing adoption. This synchronization that ARTiFACTS has with ORCID can certainly enhance and facilitate and provide value to those of you who wish to, if you will, spread the ORCID use across and throughout your own organizations.
Here's just another little example of sort of integration. I think Dave and I both have mentioned the word integration quite a few times here, and that's something that we know is important to the value of ARTiFACTS, and certainly if we're going to be successful really integrating into the broader sort of research ecosystem, we know that we need to do the work to make that easy for users and organizations. And here's just, again, a growing list of the kinds of tools that we make it literally a single button to allow integration. So sharing files and sharing metadata and so forth. And this, we're always adding more to that here. All right, so that's pretty much what I had planned to show as an overview of the system. Hopefully that's whet someone's appetite to ask a question or pose some kind of contrary view or something.
Yeah, thanks, Jason and Dave. I was wondering if maybe you could just give a quick little brief explanation of the blockchain and how that comes into play and how that works in the ARTiFACTS system.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, let me start with that. A great question. Blockchain. There's in the past several years, there's been a great deal of hype and discussion about blockchain, what it is, why it exists, is it safe, is it secure, what's this crypto stuff all about? Well, let me distill this down to our application, and our use of blockchain is really quite vanilla. We're not using tokens. There's not an incentive system. There is not a crypto economy that's behind this. The blockchain infrastructure, indeed, that the Max Planck Society has built and deployed across nearly 50 university and research institutions across the world, is essentially a ledger. It's a digital ledger of transactions. And the types of transactions that we post onto that ledger are proof of existence transactions. It's essentially the metadata associated with a file, and a citation transaction, the metadata associated with a citation. And the users, the creators of research, who are recording these provenance transactions, or these certainly provenance transactions, can choose to keep those postings entirely private, to share them selectively, or to share them openly. It's a very efficient, it's a very low-cost electronic digital ledger that is persistent and immutable. And immutable in the sense that when a data file, a proof of existence for a data file is recorded onto the ledger, it can't be changed. Now, the data file, of course, can be changed. And as that file evolves in our system, we repost a transaction onto that ledger, and our system chains together, hence blockchain, chains and links together those version variations. So it's a very efficient digital ledger of transaction activity. There's nothing really more esoteric or fancy about it than that. The value to the research community is that this ledger is distributed and operated by trusted research organizations, and there's no need to rely or exclusively depend on ARTiFACTS to have access to that information. We provide a front end and an interface and so forth that makes it efficient, but in our view, it's important for us to impart and participate in a very trusted ecosystem, and that's why we've collaborated with the Bloxburg Consortium.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
thank you.
I would just add real quickly. So, I mean, essentially, I think distributed is really a key term to use as well. So instead of just trusting Google or Microsoft or Apple or little old ARTiFACTS to host your metadata, we are just one of the nodes of these, ever growing list of major research organizations around the world that make up this infrastructure. So essentially, they have computer servers, each of these organizations that they manage, and so the sort of the authority of keeping track of those transactions is spread across all of these established and respected organizations. So there's no one, link in the chain that really can weaken it. Or if one link is, then the rest of the chain is strengthened. Again, an end user doesn't have to know anything about those things, but just for those of you who may be curious, the blockchain is one of the foundational, computer technologies that we are using in the platform. It is something that's novel to ARTiFACTS, and it is something that does add, a unique element of sort of security and authority to, the creation and sort of the protection of these digital files.
So it's kind of like an authoritative assertion, like this item exists, this person put it there on this date, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. It's not that you just put that onto ARTiFACTS server. When you uploaded that file, or even just the metadata, it is essentially a timestamp is created that's instantly sent out across this Bloxburg network to these 50 or 60 or 75 different nodes. They're called essentially different servers hosted by major organizations around the world. And I mean, hopefully everyone will at least be open to the idea that adds a certain amount of legitimacy and authority to that, to that infrastructure, that computer infrastructure.
Wonderful, thank you. Does anyone out there on the call today have questions or comments? Feel free to unmute or type into the chat. I do want to give people a chance to ask questions or state thoughts.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, this is Evan Sprague from Washington University in St. Louis. I was wondering, so if these are immutable files, they're kind of there forever, what happens if something needs to be withdrawn? What happens if your data set that you put out there originally turned out to be majorly flawed and now that needs to be removed or updated? What happens then?
Sure, great. That's a great question. Well, first, it's important to differentiate metadata from the files themselves. So, of course, files can change over time. What ARTiFACTS system does is it posts onto the blockchain metadata about that file. It does not actually put the files onto the blockchain. Secondly, absolutely agree. There are times where flaws or errors are determined, and the user is in a position. We allow the user the user always has complete control over their files. Those files may be stored wherever they would like those files to be stored. They do not have to be housed in our system, in our environment. And where a user deletes a file and such, that's entirely in their control. and that file, if you will, disappears from it's no longer accessible to others, where the file has been deleted. What our system does do, however, is it chains together evolution versions of that file, and it does keep a record of the metadata associated with that file history. But of course, it will happen on occasion, perhaps more often than we all care to think, that a file needs to be deleted because of errors, and we allow the users complete control over that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a kind of an essential question, so thanks for bringing that up. But you can see here on the screen, I'm sharing that this particular research paper that we've been working on, we have in many different versions. So essentially, each of these are a blockchain transaction, essentially, a timestamp of the metadata of that file. So if we, in hypothetical example, realize there was a mistake in the data set, and perhaps we then redid an experiment and updated a new version of that data set, that entire transaction could be, and I would personally recommend that it should be all sort of tracked here. And I think we can imagine then the potential value for transparency, right? I mean, if the group wanted to be able to show the evolution, even if that evolution of their work included some missteps, they would be able to demonstrate how completely transparent they're being with, keeping track of the metadata of those files.
I think it's important to also emphasize the benefits of this, where, as we all know, peer-reviewed primary publishing has an inherent bias to publish novel results. And as wonderful as novel results are to learn of, it can also be incredibly valuable to a research team to learn of failed results, to learn of the sufficiently granular level of detail of the novel results that have been produced, or the negative results that were produced, in order for them to be able to build and work from more intelligently. So scholarly publishing as a broad collective doesn't publish negative results. If those of us on this call are working in a laboratory and happen to be working on the exact same set of problems and applying a very close, similar approach to solving those problems as another research team that may be a year ahead of us, but we don't yet know of their work, it could be incredibly valuable to us if they were able to share and disclose through a system such as ARTiFACTS what failed for them that we could learn from and build upon. So there's an aspect of negative results that's important to be exposed in this research information ecosystem, and there's also a reproducibility concern that most disciplines suffer from, where the published works, even of novel findings, don't connect all of the dots and all of the evidence together in such a way that research can be efficiently reproduced. And so that really gets to the core of why ARTiFACTS is focused so much on the pre-published landscape of research outputs that scholars and scientists produce.
And I think that also segues into the potential for collaboration, ideally with some of you on the call with your institutional repositories, right? I mean, I highlight this one here with the Max Planck Digital Library, and we've shown, of course, we have this API. So we really would love to hear if anyone's interested in partnering with us to do a similar kind of collaboration for one of your organizations with one of your institutional repositories. Does anyone have any comments or questions about that?
I think we do have a few more questions. And I just noticed that I had the chat set to where people could only chat to me and not to everybody. So sorry about that. I thought, Franny, I thought I saw your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
Video, there we go. Yeah, so I guess I wasn't 100% clear during your initial presentation about kind of storage issues, but it's sounding like now that you can actually store content on your platform. Can you talk about that a little bit, and maybe about the identifier issues that go along with that? Is blockchain taking care of that, or is there DOI integration? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So yes, you can store files on, we have a default cloud storage, but many of our partners and many of the people we've been talking to don't necessarily want to do that. They really want the metadata stored on ARTiFACTS. So we could do either. We do have DOI integration with DataSite. Mm-hmm. And so there's a little bit of what you might call sort of belt and suspenders with DOI and the blockchain transaction. I mean, as just, you know, two different types of unique identifiers, if you will, that are tied to the metadata of an item. I mean, the blockchain transaction that we've shown here, this is purposely obtuse and not human readable, right? But it's there, and I mean, it needs to look like that in order to be, you know, in order to be unique. So you have additional things which, you know, frankly, are much more in the background. I mean, there's no plan, I don't think, in anyone's right mind that this is supposed to replace a DOI. It's another element of just the contemporary technology that allows, you know, this unique, you know, quote unquote fingerprint. But the more specific question of, do we have DOI integration? Yes, we do, and that's through DataSite. And again, when it comes to storing data, again, we've talked to folks that sort of their views and their desires across the entire range of, can you set up a custom, you know, virtual private network to our local storage, or can we keep stuff in our, you know, any cloud we want and just point to that and have metadata on your system? And the answer is yes, and we're sort of doing all of the above.
Yeah. So I think it's a way to think about, separate and apart from storage, a way to think about identifiers and identity here is, it's really a three-legged stool, where the DOI links to the artifact of record where it resides, the creator or the creator or creators S apostrophe, if there are multiple creators, ORCID IDs serve to identify the individual, and the transaction onto the blockchain is a digital fingerprint of the artifact file itself. Again, we don't post the file onto the blockchain, but it's a digital fingerprint of that file combined with metadata about that file. So it's really the collection of those three identifiers that we're sort of circling right around the artifact itself and the individuals who have produced it, and that's what we rely on for identifiers.
I think that statement right there was very helpful for me, so thank you. Yeah, I think just trying to understand where this fits in the ecosystem of things like, you know, OSF and things like that do, you know, provide researchers, you know, a place to collaborate and put a variety of content. And so I think, yeah, articulating that was very helpful. So thank you.
Great, thanks. Other questions?
We do have one other question, and I do realize we're getting close to the hour, but I'm happy to stay on a little bit longer if we want to keep going. I have somebody sent me a private chat because I had the chat set up so that they could only do that. But they said, I've just set up my ARTiFACTS account, and some but not all of my publications were automatically imported, I think from ORCID. Does that take time to populate? Also, information like employment and education did not automatically populate even though I linked my ORCID. Do researchers need to enter that manually? And can institutions set up these accounts for researchers, or do they need to set them up themselves?
Okay,
So
so
several questions all kind of tied in there.
yes, well, you may perhaps refreshing your view will there may be a slight time lag, but refreshing your view should bring in the social and employment information from your ORCID profile along with your works.
Okay, okay. So people might have to refresh their screen, but it is set up so that it should pull in all of the information that's in the ORCID record, as long as that information is not set to private. It should pull that in.
Correct. And then there are some timings in our system where when a user opts for synchronization, our system once a day goes through and updates everything. So we may be in between one of those. Now, the other part of the question is, do individuals have to individually connect their artifacts with ORCID, or can the institution do that, or how can ARTiFACTS assist with that? And that's one of the areas where we'd be very happy to collaborate with yourselves and your institution to facilitate, if you will, a batch process where we connected your research community and their ORCID accounts with ARTiFACTS, and to make that as efficient as possible. And knowing that we're at the end of time here, let me just offer this to all of you on the call. ARTiFACTS would be thrilled to have the opportunity to work with you on a pilot or other collaborations. We've set aside some development resources to work on integrations, and on a very, very cost-effective basis. And certainly the earlier adopters, and depending upon the types of system requirements that you have, we may even be able to absorb all of those development costs. So I just wanted to put that out for you all to think about, and feel free to follow up with us at your convenience.
Wonderful, thanks, Dave. Maybe you can put either Emma's or one of your email addresses into the chat so people have access to that right away. But I will also be sending out the recording of this call along with your contact information, so that people can have that available. But yeah, this seems like a very exciting opportunity that can be adapted to various contexts and scenarios depending on the systems and workflows that people already have in place at their institutions. So that's wonderful. And I recognize that we are at the end of the hour, so thank you so much everyone for staying a few minutes over. But if I get any additional questions too, I will let y'all know. But thank you so much for taking time to share with us today. I hope this has been helpful. And yeah, just stay tuned for the recording and more information, and maybe we can continue the conversations as we go forward, as people learn more and potentially do some trials. That would be great.
Great. Sheila, thank you so much. Thanks everybody for attending. Have a great day. Have a great morning.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.